"No!" Arinze roared, desperation in his voice. "I refuse to be defeated by you." Zuri's heart raced as she watched the man she had been hunting for so long begin to falter. The snake shrank smaller and smaller, losing its venomous power, until finally, with a loud hiss, it disappeared into a puff of smoke. But Arinze was not finished. He fell to his knees, panting, the darkness slowly fading from his eyes. "You think you've won. I will come back," he spat, his voice filled with rage and despair. Zuri stepped closer, the light from her charm illuminating the room. "You won't come back. You'll face the consequences of your actions, and the spirits of those you've harmed will find peace." Swift movement, Zuri raised the charm high above her head. "By the power of those who were lost, I command you to be released," she shouted, her voice ringing with authority. The light erupted from the charm, engulfing the room in a blinding glow that felt alive, as if it were a living entity, ready to break the bonds of darkness. The snake writhed in panic, its scales shimmering in the harsh light. Arinze screamed as the energy began to pull at him, tugging him away from the physical realm and toward the darkness he had been hiding in for so long. "No, this can't be happening," he shouted, desperation coloring his tone as he fought against the magic enveloping him. Zuri felt the spirits of the women swirling around her, their energy intertwining with her own. She could hear their whispers, filled with sorrow and anger, but now there was also a note of hope. They wanted justice. They wanted to be free. "You will no longer terrorize anyone," Zuri shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. She pressed the charm closer to Arinze, channeling her will through it. "I release you from this life. You will no longer feed on the pain of others." The light intensified, stretching toward Arinze like a rope of energy, pulling him into its embrace. He clawed at the ground, desperation etched into his features as he tried to resist. "You think this is over? I will come back. I will find you," he screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the rising tide of light. "Let them go!" Zuri cried, her heart racing as she focused all her strength. "You are nothing but a shadow now." With one final push, the light exploded outward, engulfing Arinze completely. The room trembled, the walls vibrating with the force of the energy as the very essence of the house responded to Zuri's command. The snake shrieked, its sound piercing through the air as it was pulled from Arinze, the dark magic dissolving around it. Zuri felt the weight of the moment crash down upon her, the reality of what she was doing sinking in. This was her chance to end the cycle of pain that Arinze had caused for so long. She would not let his darkness claim her, nor would she allow it to consume the souls of those he had destroyed. As the last remnants of darkness shattered, the snake disintegrated into wisps of shadow, disappearing into the light. Arinze let out a final heart-wrenching scream, echoing through the room before it was cut off abruptly. The brightness enveloped him. And then, silence. Zuri dropped to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. She could feel the spirits around her, swirling gently, their energy finally free. They were no longer bound to Arinze's darkness. They had found peace. Tears streamed down her face, a mix of relief and sadness. She had avenged them, but the weight of their loss remained heavy in her heart. The air settled, and Zuri stood up, looking around the now quiet room. The oppressive atmosphere was gone, replaced by a sense of calm. She had faced the monster and emerged victorious, but she knew there was still work to be done. The darkness Arinze had spread would take time to heal, and she felt a deep sense of responsibility for the women he had harmed. As she stepped outside into the cool night air, the moon hung high above, casting its silvery light on the world below. Zuri looked up, feeling the presence of the spirits with her. They were free, and she had given them the peace they deserved. In that moment, she made a silent vow she would continue to fight against the darkness in the world. She would become a guardian for those who had suffered, using the knowledge and strength she had gained through this battle. Zuri was not just a girl seeking revenge. She was now a warrior for the lost souls, a beacon of hope for those who had been silenced. And as the first rays of dawn began to break, illuminating the horizon with a promise of a new day, Zuri felt a sense of purpose bloom within her. The battle against darkness was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever came next. The dawn broke softly, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold. Zuri stood at the edge of the village, the fresh morning breeze brushing against her face. She felt a sense of calm wash over her, yet the events of the night lingered in her mind like shadows that refused to fade. She had fought bravely and freed the souls that had been trapped by Arinze's evil, but the battle had taken its toll. As the village began to stir, Zuri knew she had to share the truth about Arinze with the others. They had to know what had happened and how the darkness that had loomed over their lives was finally lifted. But how would they react? Would they believe her? With determination, she made her way back toward the village. As she walked, she could see families starting their day, children playing, and the sweet scent of breakfast wafting through the air. It felt surreal, knowing that they were blissfully unaware of the horrors that had transpired just hours before. When she arrived in the village square, she noticed a small crowd gathering. It seemed that everyone was eager to hear about the newlyweds and their first night together. Zuri's heart raced. This was her moment. She stepped forward, her voice steady, as she called out to the villagers. "Everyone, I have something important to tell you." The crowd hushed, curious eyes turning toward her. They had seen her as the bride, the woman who had married Arinze, but now they were seeing her as a warrior who had faced the darkness head-on. "Last night, I faced Arinze," she began, her voice echoing through the square. "He is not who you think he is. He is not a perfect gentleman. He is a monster. A killer who has taken the lives of many women before me." Gasps filled the air, and murmurs spread through the crowd. "What do you mean?" someone shouted from the back. Zuri took a deep breath, steadying herself. "He is cursed. Each night, he transforms into a snake, feeding on the fear and pain of his brides. I was prepared for him. I have spent years hunting him, gathering the knowledge and strength to face him. And last night, I defeated him." The crowd shifted uneasily, disbelief written on their faces. "How can this be true?" a woman called out. "We saw how happy you were at the wedding." "I pretended to be happy so I could get close to him," Zuri explained, her heart racing. "Has been hiding in plain sight, charming everyone around him while hiding his true nature. But I promise you, he is gone for good. The spirits of the women he harmed are finally free." An elder stepped forward, her brow furrowed with concern. "How can we trust your words? This sounds like a terrible story, a tale meant to scare us." An elder stepped forward, her brow furrowed with concern. "How can we trust your words? This sounds like a terrible story, a tale meant to scare us." Zuri met the elder's gaze, her eyes pleading. "I know it's hard to believe. I understand your fear. But the darkness he spread was real. He took innocent lives, and I could not stand by and let him hurt anyone else. You must believe me." Just then, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd. It was Okwu, a close friend who had always supported Zuri. He stepped forward, his eyes filled with understanding. "I believe her," he said, his voice strong. Zuri has always been brave, and she wouldn't lie about something like this. We need to listen to her." The villagers turned to Okwu, and slowly the tide began to shift. They whispered among themselves, contemplating the weight of Zuri's words. "What can we do to honor the lost?" Another voice piped up, a young girl who had grown up listening to tales of the women who had disappeared over the years. "How can we remember them?" Zuri felt a swell of gratitude for the support of her friend and the courage of the young girl. "We can build a memorial for the women who were lost," she said, her voice rising with enthusiasm. "We can create a place where their memories will live on and where the villagers can come to remember the lives that were cut short." The villagers began to nod, their expressions changing from skepticism to resolve. "Yes, we can do that," Okwu exclaimed. "Let us show that we stand together against the darkness." With newfound determination, the villagers banded together, discussing plans for the memorial. They talked about creating a beautiful garden filled with flowers, where the names of the lost women could be etched into stones. It would serve as a reminder to everyone that they would never be forgotten. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Zuri felt a sense of peace settle over her. The battle against darkness might be ongoing, but she had taken the first step. With the support of her friends and the villagers, they would honor the past while building a brighter future. Later that evening, the villagers gathered around a small fire in the square to celebrate their victory over the darkness. Zuri sat among them, feeling a warmth in her heart that had been absent for so long. They shared stories, laughter, and tears, recalling the lives of those who had been lost and promising to protect each other from the shadows that might return. As Zuri looked around at the smiling faces of her friends and neighbors, she realized that she had found her purpose. She would continue to be a guardian for the lost souls, using her strength and knowledge to protect her village. The memories of the women Arinze had harmed would live on in their hearts, guiding her as she faced whatever challenges lay ahead. That night, as she prepared for bed, Zuri held the charm that had helped her defeat Arinze close to her heart. She would never forget the lessons she had learned, the strength of unity, the power of hope, and the importance of standing against darkness. And with that, she closed her eyes, ready to dream of the bright future she would help create for her village. The shadows that once loomed over them had faded, replaced by the light of new beginnings. Zuri's journey was far from over, but she felt ready to face whatever came next. With the spirits of the fallen beside her and the love of her community supporting her, she knew she could confront any darkness that dared to challenge her again. The days passed and the village transformed. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers and the sound of laughter. Zuri watched as her community came together to build the memorial garden, a symbol of their resilience and unity. The garden's design was a collaborative effort. Okwu, with his skilled hands, crafted beautiful wooden benches. The elder, with her wise eyes, selected the perfect stones for the walkway. Zuri, with her artistic touch, painted vibrant murals on the walls surrounding the garden. In the center of the garden, a stunning statue stood tall. It was a woman, her arms stretched towards the sky, symbolizing hope and freedom. The villagers named her Akua, meaning life in their native language. As Zuri wandered through the garden, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She ran her fingers over the stones, etched with the names of the lost women. Each name told a story, each story a reminder of the struggles they had faced. Zuri's thoughts turned to Arinze, the man who had brought darkness to their village. She realized that his evil deeds had, in fact, brought them closer together. The villagers had discovered strength in their unity, and Zuri had found her purpose. The day of the garden's unveiling arrived. The villagers gathered, their faces filled with anticipation. Zuri stood beside Okwu, her hand in his. The elder stepped forward, her voice trembling with emotion. Today, we honor the women who were taken from us. We remember their laughter, their smiles, and their stories. We celebrate our victory over darkness and our commitment to protecting one another. As the elder spoke, the villagers began to sing. Their voices rose like a wave, filling the air with joy and sorrow. Zuri felt tears stream down her face, but they were no longer tears of pain. They were tears of healing. The ceremony concluded, and the villagers approached the garden. They placed flowers and offerings beside the stones, whispering prayers and memories. Zuri watched, her heart swelling with pride. In that moment, she knew she had found her true calling. She would protect her village, ensure their stories were told, and keep the memories of the lost women alive. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the garden, Zuri smiled. The shadows that once loomed over them had faded, replaced by the light of new beginnings.